Dance for joy or lust or anger, and every time.
Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, a series where we look at practical and sensible cars which you can buy for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 2013 Skoda Rapid 1.2 TSI S, and it might be the most sensible car we've ever had on the channel. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So the Skoda Rapid, or this generation Rapid, there were others before, notably one in the sort of 1980s, was launched in 2012. This is a very early car, dates from 2013, and the standard liftback versions like this were discontinued in 2018, at the same time as the Mark IV Seat Toledo that came out, I think, slightly later than this, but was essentially exactly the same car, bar some trim and badge differences. Built on the same production line in the Czech Republic for our market. Not perhaps the most exciting cars that Skoda and Seat have ever made. I think the Seats do look a bit better than these. I've never been quite happy with the look at the front of the Rapid, and then the rear has the famous sort of Seat badge with the integrated sort of boot release within the badge. This just has a normal boot release, which I think is a bit less exciting, but there we go. Engines available at the start were a 1.2 with 73 horsepower non-turbo, then the 1.2 TSI like this one with 84 horsepower, the 1.2 TSI with 103 horsepower. Top of the range back in the early days was a 1.4 that only came with the DSG gearbox, which had 120 horsepower. In 2015 the engine range was changed. The 1.2 non-turbo was dropped, which probably is a good thing in a big car like this. The 1.2 84 brake horsepower TSI went up to 89 horsepower. The 103 brake horsepower engine went to 108 horsepower, and then the 1.4 engine went to 122 horsepower. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, thanks to controversial government legislation, all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. In 2017, they actually changed the engine lineup yet again, and all the 1.2s were dropped and were replaced with a couple of 1 litres. The lesser power one was a 1 litre 3-cylinder with 95 horsepower, and then there was the upper power one with 109 horsepower, and that came with a 6-speed manual. That's probably my pick of the range, but you've got to be aware of wet timing belts in those, which we need a wet timing belt alert. Well, viewers, for some reason my shadow might be getting in the way, but here we are. An almost base model early Skoda Rapid. It's not even a spaceback model, this is the standard hatchback. Some people call these a saloon, but as we'll see in a little bit, they are not a saloon. Not by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. This would have had originally black plastic door handles, and I think even possibly it had wheel trims on it rather than the alloy wheels it has now. Yes, I suppose someone's aftermarket chrome handle thing does make them look a little bit better, but it's really up to you and your opinion. Someone's also put a spoiler on the back to make it more rapid. That was an awful joke, viewers. I should just pause for a second and yeah, anyway, right, so Massive, massive boot on these. You can see with a side profile that someone might think they are a saloon, but they're not. I will show you. Not a saloon at all. It's a very, very large kind of, I'd say a lift back type hatchback. I don't know why that's come undone. It keeps doing that. There we go. Enormous boot. 550 litres of space. 550. I mean, that's larger than like some luxury saloon cars, things like that, like maybe a sort of 5 or 7 series. It's enormous in here. It's bigger than most estate cars. And we've got a full-size spare in here. Not even a space here, a full-size spare. Amazing. It's absolutely incredible. What we don't have in here, which would be better, are like sort of tie-down points or things like that. Do we even have a boot light in here? Yeah, we do. It doesn't work for some reason, but there we go. You do get this to pull on the hatch to close it, because it is enormous. So yes, does aftermarket spoiler work on this or not? The one thing that does work is the cabin space. It's vast. Absolutely huge. If I just move this thing out of the way, it's quite a narrow car because it's based essentially on a stretch floor pan of the previous generation Polo, the one it came out in 2009. But it is huge. We might at some point be able to get into here and open the fuel filler flap and see the sort of ice scraper in here, but for some reason it doesn't want to do that at the moment. Oh well. Hard plastic all over the door cards and windy windows in the back, and we don't even get a chromed interior door handle. If you really want a base model Rapid though, that's not what you'll be concerned about though. No map pockets either on the back, no centre armrest or ski hatch, because the posher ones would come with the ski hatch and centre armrest. Got some cup holders in there though, when we've got very, very large door bins. Legroom is absolutely fine, headroom is absolutely fine. It's not really the most spacious for 3 people in the back because it's just based on the Polo platform. Apart from at the back where it's got a Jetta rear suspension in it. Yeah, not really an awful lot to say. That's really what a lot of this car sort of is. It's just a very no-nonsense type of car that you could buy for almost kind of fabbier money, but with a lot more space. In fact, the sort of Mark III Fabia does share a lot of parts with these. You know, electric window switches, mirror switch, I think, as well. Very familiar to anybody who drives sort of Skodas and Seats and Volkswagens of the time. But again, absolute poverty spec. We haven't even got air conditioning in here. We've got no lever on the steering wheel. We've got no steering wheel buttons. We've got just sort of nothing at all. We've got a hard plastic dash, but do you really care? That's the biggest thing. My uncle, who owns a 2017 Rapid Spaceback, also a 1.2 TSI S model, he doesn't care. He's had his car for years and he's not going to sell it. So there are people out there who just don't really care. But, you know, this austere door card with virtually no fabric on it, it does have an enormous door bin. I remember from my Mark IV Toledo that I used to own that is very similar to this. They're just, you know, slight interior differences and badges mainly, really. That it was really good for just dumping stuff into front door pockets. 5-speed manual gearbox in this one. There we go. Too much light in here today. And weird cup holders. Very strange. What's quite good about this one is that it's got the very basic infotainment system. Even more basic than the facelift ones. Keep my hand out of the way. It's got a CD player, which might sound ridiculous to me saying to you, like, oh, it's amazing it's got a CD player, but actually a lot of cars don't have them these days. Aux, don't know what this is, like an aftermarket aux solution to it or something like this. But I don't think we've even got an aux in. A lot of Rapids and Toledos in here would actually be the infotainment system place where you put the sort of CDs and you put the memory cards in. We don't have any of that stuff here. We don't have a chilled glove box, which you could get on some of the other models. Yeah, just very basic. There's a cigarette lighter down there. There's no armrest because it's sort of almost a base model and not a lot else. I'll put in the key, which is just a normal key. I think we need a service, but I mean, turn that off. That's the way that you cycle through stuff, just by this. Current temperature and times and all sorts of stuff, and that's all you get. You don't really get anything in this. Just nothing at all. You do though get reach adjustment for the steering, which is quite good. Unlike the Seat actually has normal gauges. You get a temperature gauge and a fuel gauge. Normal. They sort of they're electronic. They have little sort of bars. But they're not like this little thing in the middle where we just get a temperature light, which is annoying. But maybe they thought, well, do you really even need a proper temperature gauge? You might not, and so we're not going to give you one. Got stop start though in this car. You can turn the traction control off. The door lock button's actually here for some reason. There's not much else to say. It's very kind of standard, kind of early 2010s Volkswagen Group poverty spec. I used to, sunglass holder up here in mine, Toledo, but that's because it was an excellence model. This is just nothing. Nothing to say. Let's have a look at the engine, possibly then we can think of something to say about that. At least this isn't the base engine. That was a 73 brake horsepower non-turbo. This is the less powerful turbo. It's 1.2 of 84 horsepower. There was also a 103 brake horsepower version of this engine. When they changed the engines in 2015, they got higher power outputs, but actually they changed from a chain-driven engine to a cam belt engine, and this is the chain-driven engine, the earlier one. To just bear that in mind when you're actually looking at these. The other thing is, the timing chains on these can go bad. It's not unknown for them to do so, just to be aware of that. This one seems fine to me. Also, we've got an upside down oil filter, a bit like on my Sanyong Tivoli, that sits there as well, which is interesting, because it makes it easier to work on. And we've got the Volkswagen Group coolant reservoir that they've had since the dawn of time. I think they were introduced to the Audi A3 in 1996, actually. Yeah, apart from that, there's not really a lot else to say. I don't think that the Rapid is as nice at the front as the Toledo. The Toledo's just got a slightly more pleasing design, in my opinion. Probably unbiased because I owned one. Yeah, apart from that, I don't think there's anything else to say. We've got no fog lights or anything. Let's go for another drive. I might have something else to say once we've been for one. Predictable but wonderful. So how does this car actually drive? Well, surprisingly enough, it's a bit like a third generation Skoda Fabia, which we've had documented extensively on the channel. I've driven a couple of those, and it's all very sort of nice and predictable. The steering's perfectly fine. It's actually quite well weighted for a car like this. Rides a little bit firmer than I remember from the Mark IV Toledo that I used to have, a 2017 1 litre TSI Excellence model that was the first car ever on this channel in 2018. That was just a lot more luxurious than this. It's fine. I think 0 to 60 in this is about 12 seconds or something. There's just not an awful lot to say about the way it drives. It's comfortable enough. You can do very long journeys in this. The engine's not too intrusive, even on this base model. It's not the most sophisticated drive, but then the sort of person who buys a Skoda Rapid isn't really looking for that, so there's just not a lot to say. What do you expect from something that looks like this? Let's have a look now at some Skoda Rapid trim levels. There was the E, which is somehow even more basic than this car. The S, this one, which was the main base spec one. The SE, which the majority of them were. The SEL, which was the later sort of more luxurious car. The Elegance was the earlier, more luxurious car. Then we have the Sport, which was a sort of later attempt to zhuzh it up a little bit, I think. And then the SE Connect and Black Edition special editions. So viewers, should you consider a Skoda Rapid as a sensible second-hand buy? Well, in some ways it's hard to kind of fault this car as a very rational buy. They're narrow, so you can fit into those parking spaces, but they're also quite long, so you've got plenty of rear space and plenty of boot space. They're not necessarily the most expensive cars to run because some of them have very small and economical engines. But what you really need to go for, in my opinion, is a more exciting version, something like an SEL or maybe a Sport or something like that. These kind of lower trim models don't excite me at all. They really don't, and I know because my uncle's got one. Yeah, possible Spaceback's a bit more exciting than this, but if you really want just something as large as possible, as little money as possible, but as cheap to run as possible, then there's nothing to beat one of these, really. Anyway, thank you ever so much once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again very soon for more inexpensive motoring, I suppose.